Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending this meeting of the Licensing and Gambling Subcommittee on Tuesday the 25th of November. Before we get started, I'd like to run through some housekeeping rules. There are no planned fire alarms, so if it sounds, please leave via the nearest exit. Toilets are down the corridor and on your left. Can I ask that all mobile phones are kept on silent, ideally switched off? My name's Matthew Lynch. I'm the chair of the Licensing and Public Safety Committee. I'm also chair of this committee. And clearly I've got a problem remembering who I am and what I do. Can I ask councillors on my right to introduce themselves?
Councillor Michelle Beach, Vice Chair of the Licensing and Public Safety Committee.
And I'll ask our legal officer to introduce herself.
I'm Elizabeth Walsh. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Walsh and I'm Legal Services Team Leader.
And can I ask Democratic Services Officer to introduce herself?
I'm Nina Niceberg, Democratic Services Officer.
And can I ask the applicant to introduce himself and representative?
Hi, Paul Rogers, on my own.
And other persons?
Samantha Martin, I'm here representing Will Sutton, who objected to the licence.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have an observer in the room and an officer providing IT support. The hearing will proceed as follows. Subcommittee to decide whether to allow persons specified on Regulation 8 notice permission to speak. Our licensing officer will outline the report. Questions to our licensing officer for clarification will be permitted from subcommittee members, the applicant and other persons' representatives. The applicant will then be invited to make representations regarding their application. Questions to the applicant will be permitted from the subcommittee and other persons' representative. The other person's representative will then be invited to make representations on behalf of the other person. Questions to the other person's representative will be permitted from the subcommittee and the applicant. The other person's representative will be invited to sum up if they so wish, and the applicant will be invited to sum up if they so wish. The applicant, other persons, representatives and officers who are not directly supporting the subcommittee will be excluded from the meeting at this point as we enter deliberations. Following deliberations, we will request that the applicant re-enter the meeting so that I can deliver our decision. The applicant will be issued with a detailed notice of decision within 5 working days of this hearing. Now open the meeting. Apologies.
We've had apologies from the other person, Mr Sutton.
Item number 1, declarations of any interest. If a member has a pecuniary interest, they must withdraw from the meeting. Normally, you should leave the room before the business starts to be discussed. You do, however, have the same right to speak as a member of the public and may remain in the room to enable you to exercise that right and then leave immediately. In either case, you must not seek to improperly influence a decision on the matter. Does anyone have any interest to declare? If you feel that you do have an interest at any point, please let me know. Item 2, procedure. The procedure for the meeting has already been outlined. However, a copy of this procedure can be found on agenda pages 3 and 4. And you will also have a copy in front of you. Yes? Yes? Yep. Good. And therefore we go on to item 3. Subcommittee decides whether to allow persons specified on Regulation 8 notice to speak. Members should note that permission should not be unduly withheld. Are there any requests, Nathan?
None have been received, Chair. Obviously, Mr Sutton has not attended the meeting. He is represented by Ms Martin. And just to sort of clarify that sort of responsibility, everything that is said must be the view of Mr Sutton rather than Ms Martin's own views. Thank you.
Okie dokie. So, we move on to item 4, determination of application to vary a premises licence in kitchen tap room, 11 to 13 Barnes Wallis Way. Nathan, can I ask you to present your report?
Yes, thank you and good evening to members of the committee. I'll start on agenda page 5 if members want to follow along with me. The reason this item has been referred to the committee is to advise members that an application to vary a premises licence has been received and relevant representations have been received. It's for members to determine the application in accordance with the provisions of the Licensing Act 2003. The premises is located in a parade of commercial premises with residential dwellings above. At the end of the row is a large supermarket, and opposite the premises is an undeveloped plot of land. To the southwest and north are further residential properties. A location plan of the areas surrounding the premises is appended at Appendix 1, and there's an image of the frontage of the premises appended at Appendix 2. It has been raised with me prior to the hearing that the image is out of date, so it doesn't specifically look like that, but it's just to give members a feeling of what that location looks like. The premises has previously benefited from a premises licence which lapsed. The existing licence was first granted on the 9th of April 2025, and this licence was granted following a hearing of the then Licensing Act 2003 subcommittee, and there's a copy of that decision notice at Appendix 3. The licence which was issued following that is appended at Appendix 4. Turning now to the application for you to determine, on the 30th of September, an application to vary the premises licence was made, and there's a copy of that application appended at Appendix 5. This application seeks to replace Condition 7 of Annex 2, which says, alcohol shall not be permitted to be taken off the premises as defined in the plan attached to the licence in open containers. And it's to replace that with the following condition. The use of the outdoor seating area shall cease to be used for consumption of alcohol, of any drink rather, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, after 2200 hours each day. And then 2 is to vary the existing plan to include an outside area to the front of the premises. And there's a copy of that new plan appended to Appendix 6. It's accepted by the applicant that this condition has not been complied with for some time. It stated that the premises licence was not received by the licence holder and that they were unaware this condition has been imposed on the licence. The condition had been added to the licence as it was offered by the applicant in their original application for a premises licence. There was a visit conducted at the premises on the 9th of September, and there is a summary of that correspondence appended in Appendix 7. The application was advertised in accordance with the regulations, and that's in that a notice was displayed at the premises. A notice was posted in a local newspaper, and the application was published on the council's website. Turning then to the representations, on the 13th of October, a representation was received from Mr. Sutton, another person within the meaning of the Act. This representation related to the prevention of public nuisance objective, and a copy is appended at Appendix 8. At a paragraph 15, 16 and 17 then, there are the comments from the monitoring officer, and then turning to the conclusions and the decision before you. So the decision should be based on the individual merits of the application and the representation. In accordance with the hearing regulations, a decision must be made within 5 working days, beginning with the day on which the hearing is held. In accordance with Section 35, the authority must, having regard to the representations made, take such steps mentioned below, if any, as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licence and objectives. And those steps are to modify the conditions of the licence or to reject the whole or a part of the application. And I'll just clarify for members, what isn't permitted through this process is to essentially reduce the licence for any further than what is already permitted. The decision is only to either grant the licence or modify it in some way. It's not to take away from the licence. So for the purpose of this, the conditions of a licence are modified if any of them are altered or omitted or any new condition is added. And then therefore the subcommittee is requested to determine the matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Questions from the committee?
Thank you, Chair. You say that the image that we put that's been circulated is out of date. How out of date is it, or what is it that's different to the image that we've been provided?
Yeah, so it's an image that's taken from Google Maps, essentially. I am not exactly sure when that image would have been taken. The frontage of the premises has certainly been changed to represent the new business. The sort of physicality of the venue is the same. You know, there's no pavement changes or anything like that. It would be sort of, you know, the look of the area has changed rather than anything else.
Any other questions, Councillor France?
I assume the outdoor seating area is in front of the restaurant on the pavement area.
Yes, that's right, Councillor.
Thank you.
Anything further? Okay. I might come back to you, Nathan, but
Can I just clarify on that? So, yes, it's the area at the front, which is the area which is shown in the photograph. Obviously, there's no seating shown in that photograph, but that's where the seating would be, and that's what the change in this condition is being requested for. It's that area shown in the photograph.
yeah, I might come back to you if I need to later on, Nathan. Something's niggling me, and I need to try and figure it out in my head before I ask you a question. Okie dokie. Therefore, Mr. Rogers, any questions to the licensing officer?
No, none. Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Martin, any questions?
Reading Will's notes. Yeah, that's it. To read Will's notes. So, yes, can clarification please be presented as to why, after numerous complaints to the council, police and licensing, why this has been allowed to continue to happen, given the public nuisance? He's also added at the size of the seating area, that it's not demonstrated at all in the photograph that's in the pack. It is significantly different, and there's approximately 64 seats outside this premises that are a fixed seating. They're not removed of an evening. So I think it's quite important that the committee do see an up-to-date image. I do have one. I can provide it for you if need be. It's acknowledged that it is a public nuisance after 2200 hours at night, and it is a residential area. So the question has been asked, why has nothing been done? Why have we got to this point? His next question is around the planning application. A planning officer has sent an email to a number of residents stating that a planning application is now required.
Nathan, do you want to, would it be easier if you just answer one at once?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, so obviously I am here as the licensing authority rather than as a responsible authority. As is outlined in the report, there has been various things happening at the venue. There has been a visit done, there has been, the premises licence order has been written to, and that has resulted in this application to change the licence. And so licensing it's expecting that licensing authorities operate under what's called the stepped approach to enforcement. And so it's expected that premises will self-regulate, and then there would be visits, and then there would be written warning, and then as you move up that pyramid, further action may be taken. And so that's essentially what's happened in this occasion.
Yes, so as regards, there is supposed to be a planning application for the outside area. So is the licence subject to the planning being granted, or will the licence be granted subject to planning?
The way planning and licensing are two very different bodies. So you can license an area that doesn't have planning application. As you can apply for planning, if you don't own a property, we are two separate entities. So their decision doesn't base our decision, and vice versa. Yeah.
And just to add further to that, whichever decision is the most sort of restrictive is the one which anybody would have to comply with. And so if licensing says one thing and planning says another thing, whichever one is the more curtailing, that's the one that somebody would have to comply with.
Okay, so based on that then, in the letter that was sent out, it does actually state that without the planning consent, it is illegal to be serving outside. Or without, I can't remember now what the actual wording, hold on. Yeah, so it says, alcohol should not be permitted, blah, 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 blah. What this means, this is an offence if alcohol is taken off your premises in an unsealed container, glass, open bottle, etc., having closed the plan. Yeah, so basically what they're saying is, the planning officer is saying without planning permission, you can't drink outside.
Hang on.
I was going to say, do you give Nathan an opportunity to just clarify
Yeah.
that? It's just through you, Chair, it's the husband's letter, and the referring to the bit at the bottom. But I don't know if you want to clarify that, Nathan, just to kind of...
Yes, so essentially the Licensing Act says you must carry on licensable activities under an authorisation. So you have to have a licence to carry on licensable activities, sell alcohol, and you must do it in accordance with an authorisation, and that means you have to comply with conditions. That is the condition on the licence, which is sort of in italics in the bottom of that letter, and so it's pointing out that to fail to comply with that condition, it's an offence. So it's a condition of the licence rather than anything to do with planning.
Okay, not overly sure that makes sense, but anyway. Okay, let me just see if he has any further questions. So if the licence is granted and the clause is maintained to all licensing activity stops after 2200 hours, what measures will there be to enforce this, given it hasn't been so far?
Yes, so essentially the usual powers available to a licensing authority, and that would be again through that that stepped approach to enforcement. Ultimately, a breach of a licence is a criminal offence. The sanctions are severe. It can be an unlimited fine, 6 months in prison, or both, and that's on conviction. There are other bits of things around closures and things, but probably not relevant really in this circumstance.
Okay, and last question. About the number of seating outside, given that the tables are fixed and lodged and can't be moved, and there is approximately seating for 64 people outside. Is it regulated as to how many people would be able to sit outside?
No, capacity isn't a licensing consideration.
Okay. Any further questions? Would you like to just clarify the outdoor seating and licensing is issued and why in this particular area that wouldn't happen? Yeah.
Yeah, so ordinarily placing tables and chairs out onto the street would require a pavement licence. Obviously, this area and large parts of Buckshaw Village aren't land maintainable at public expense, and so the pavement licence regime doesn't apply to those areas. We don't have the power to require a pavement licence to be granted for those areas. It's only on land maintainable at a public expense.
Thank you. Therefore, if there's no further questions, I'll still be reserving my right, if I need to come back to you, Nathan. Can I ask Mr. Rogers to make your submissions to the committee, please?
Hi there, Mr. Chair. So I'm not quite sure what to say here, other than obviously I'm applying for the extension of the licence to go out onto the outside terrace. The outside terrace tables that we have installed and chairs aren't fixed. We actually put them there ourselves. They are robust items. They are super heavy wooden chairs. They can sit up to 8 people. The idea is that they're all together to answer the questions. And very rarely, though, you do get 8 people sat on them, because you normally get sort of a family of 4 and that type of thing. And the idea is that people sort of step up across them. Since we opened in the summer, I've seen it busy out there, but probably no more than 40 odd covers by the time you've got everybody on there. It looks quite big, but it's not when you actually see everybody that's sort of sat there. It's a very family-friendly affair by day, and at night time, we have some music on inside, which is different to the outside. We have all the doors all closed, we have all the windows that are not able to be opened. We invested in air conditioning units, we have self-closing doors, so that we can keep everything chilled in the summer, warm in the winter. The issues that we do have outside, and I know we've referred to these already, so whether or not it's be the time to do that. I put my hand up to that. I got the licensing wrong with regards to what I thought we could do. As soon as I was made aware of it, officially through a letter as well, we ceased all forms of people outside other than those that go out there to vape and smoke, which we discussed at the last application. And we did stop. There have been a couple of breaches on that. 2 employees have lost their positions because of it, because they're not following instructions. We have a notice on the outside of the door, on the inside, sorry, that says you cannot take stuff outside. We still get people taxis when they're inside. Most people that use the facility live on the village, so they're all walking as such. We put in place the noise regulation book, so whenever I get a complaint, we log it into the book, so should a licensing officer want to pop in and talk to us about an issue, he can, same as the HO. I've had 2 incidents that I've actually dealt with personally. One was outside, which involved some people that came from another establishment, of which we just politely passed away, and then they moved on. The other one was a visit by the HO officer, which was about a noise. He wasn't able to tell me if it was either the kitchen tap or down at home, and it was in the summertime. But he came down to see me. We assumed it would be the kitchen tap on the outside, but that's the only thing I've had reported. I've had no police incidents. I've had nothing else from council, other than obviously yourselves with regards to the letter. And as soon as I'm aware of it, that's it, we sorted it. I'm an established licensee. I have 2 other credible businesses. One of them is in Buckshaw Village, 5 doors down, called Home Restaurants. I have had 0 issues since I have been in Buckshaw Village with one establishment in 4.5 years. I have had, literally, with the kitchen tap, 2 incidents, of which we've sorted, but equally as well, and again, I'll put my hand up, in the first period of time where I got the licensing wrong, because I didn't have a copy of the license for whatever reason, and we misunderstood what we could do. But the minute we were made aware of it, we made adjustments and changes. I've had no visit from Andrea, even after the last application, and we talked about it, and it was almost, you just need to come and see me. I'm a local person. I'm a local business. I employ local people, okay? We literally service local business. Local guests. We always have an open door policy for anybody to have an issue with us. And since we have opened, I have heard nothing from either Will Sutton or anybody else on that corner. I have had no complaints from anybody that lives upstairs from us, and not one of those people have objected to this with regards to what we've asked for. I'm asking for a 10 o'clock license for the outside, not 11 o'clock, because I think that is unreasonable. 10 o'clock in the summertime is when the light finishes. During the winter, only people that go out there for a cigarette or a vape use the facility out there. When it rains in the Great Northwest, it is rare, okay? There's nobody out there unless they're with an umbrella. I don't have any large umbrellas, and I won't put any out there. I don't have any heaters outside, and I won't put any out there. It's just not the business plan that we look to have. Outside, during the summertime, it was great fun. There were people, there were families, there literally with the dogs, the children, and everything else, all sat there on these wonderful benches that we put out there. And that's it. I get the objection from these people again, but again, I'm trying to work with people, but if they can't literally walk the 40 yards to me and say, Paul, this is what happened last night or whatever, I can't make adjustments. I've got full videos, I check it all the time. So I'm back here. I should have really done this in the first place on my original visit as an application. But it's only through education, making mistakes, that you realise what you should have done. And that's hence the reason why I'm sat back down here again, going through the process. If you want the answer on planning, I've applied for planning permission, okay, and we're going through that process now. But as you quite rightly pointed out, that's a separate issue altogether. And I mean, that's about it, I suppose.
Thank you. I'm just trying to find the wording for the thing, the condition that we added in, Nathan, last time. We're about a point where community can raise points.
Yeah, Annex 2, Condition 6, it was amalgamated into that condition.
Yes.
So any complaints received concerning crime, disorder and or nuisance. It's the incident log condition, Chair.
Right. So, sorry, Mr. Rogers. So when you previously came before us, one of the conditions was to promote community cohesion, etc., with this log. So I'm assuming that if you have had any complaints, that you have made a log of these. Roughly, how many log entries do you think you've got since just one? Right, okay.
I have one, and that was from a regular upstairs on a Monday night when we do an open mic night,
Right.
where we promote local bands, and he just thought that 9:30, or the actual act we had on, in fairness, was way out of control in volume wise, as in their own volume. Right. So we have to keep on turning it down. And he'd called down and said, "Is that going on for much longer?" And that's the only incident I've got, other than obviously the visits of local licence.
Right. Okay. Questions from the committee?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, and Paul from the EHO office, when he came to see me about the noise level.
Which is just reminded me of, I'm just going to come back to Nathan. Sorry, Nathan. When you gave the report, did you have any submissions, any concerns raised from environmental health, police, or anybody else in regards to nuisance from the premises?
There were no other representations made regarding this application.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for triggering my memory. Questions from the committee? Okay, thank you. Questions from the person's representative, Ms. Martin?
Yeah, so I'll just make a point about residents not approaching the licensee directly. And it's the reason they're not here tonight is because they feel completely intimidated. A number of comments have been made on Facebook.
Have you got a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the reason they haven't gone directly to the premises and instead of made
It's a question, not a statement
I'm getting
of
to it.
what other people...
Yeah. So my question is, given that residents feel intimidated to approach the licensee
Hang on,
directly,
hang on,
is there another
hang on.
means for them to raise their...
Ms. Martin, hang on. Because there's nothing in the representations regarding intimidation, we can't hear that now. If you have a question for Mr. Rogers, I'm happy for you to ask that question and we get an answer.
a door supervisor to enforce that the noise is kept to a minimum outside. I think that's
Hang on.
quite a good leeway.
Are we talking about... I'm just going to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes because I need to seek some further advice. Okay, right, we'll restart the meeting. So, just for members, we're going to disregard the comments regarding alleged intimidation, as it's not in Mr Sutton's initial comments. Therefore, as a representative, we can only take off what Mr Sutton has said. In regards to your question regarding SIA staff, I would ask you to consider rephrasing your question on the basis that we're not concerned this evening with what's going on inside the premises. The committee is to decide whether extending that area and granting permission to serve open alcohol is what the real issue is tonight, and what the effects of that are. So if you would like to ask your question again, but rephrase it to focus on those, then I'm sure Mr Rogers will provide a response.
Okay. So, if the committee grants the licence for the outside area and there is a restriction put in place that activities stop at 10 p.m, would the business consider employing an SEA supervised to oversee operations outside of the business from, say, 6 p.m, 7 p.m. onwards to reduce the noise levels for residents? Preferably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings. Not every night, but those nights where it is particularly noisy.
I just don't believe the business needs it. I believe it can be self-managed. I've got the people to be able to do it. Our guests that are all locals, they themselves will comply once we're able to tell them these things. I don't think 10 o'clock is unreasonable. It is still not loud outside. It is people just talking. There is no music outside. There's no noise outside. I'll say it again. It's got double glazing, 15mm plate glass. You cannot, I've been over where Mr Sutton lives. I cannot hear that. It is no different than the car driving past. The doors are self-closed. I've got air conditioning inside. Why I would want to impose an environment almost hostile of putting security guards on duty on a basis from 6 o'clock onwards, it's just not needed. I think the right way forward is, if we get it wrong and we do the steps to change, and that's when the enforcement kicks in, then that's perhaps something for further on down the line. But for now, from my point of view, no, it's not needed. You know, Mr Sutton again's not here. Second time after he puts in his notice with regards to him objecting to it. You turned up again on his behalf. You didn't put an objection in this time. You did last time and I got it. Honestly, I think how I left things last time to now, and not one of you have walked over to our front doors or even dropped me a note or anything and said, could we have a conversation about this? You haven't even taken your own first steps, but you literally waste so much time and money in doing what you've just done. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Mr.
It's almost
Rogers,
personal.
Mr. Rogers.
Intimidating.
Order.
Sorry, Chair.
Can I just remind you that Miss Martin is here to represent Mr. Sutton? The tone in the language of you is directed at Miss Martin. Irrespective of personal feelings or what may have happened, what may not have happened, can I remind you that it's a representative role that Miss Martin is acting upon? I would also remind Miss Martin that that is her role this evening. Okay? So I think the question is, the question was, and I'm sure you will correct me if I'm wrong, the question was, would you agree to put SIA staff on to restrict noise nuisance? I think my understanding is, what you're saying to the committee is, you are confident that the staff that you have can deal with noise nuisance.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. My
Right,
apologies.
okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Miss Martin, would you like to make representations on behalf of Mr Sutton, please?
I think I'll just sum up his notes that he's given me. You don't want to read all 5 pages of them. I think there is a lack of understanding of the noise levels on the road. More than happy to show you videos, etc., that I have with me, that Mr Sutton and the other resident have given to me as well. Obviously, my views don't come into this, but I am a resident of the street as well, so I can say there is noise.
Well,
Yeah.
hang on.
I can
I'll just
confirm it.
reiterate my point of this is that you're representing Mr Sutton's views, not your own. Okay?
Like I said, I think there is a lack of understanding of the noise levels and how loud even a group of people at 11 o'clock at night are.
Yeah.
But you've admitted that that's not happened.
Through the chair, please.
Yeah. So, I think none of the residents want the business to close. It is just a case of accepting that there are people that live there, there are residents, there are people with children and families, and people want to be able to choose what time of night they go to bed at and not be dictated by the noise levels that are outside, to live peacefully in their own homes. I think the suggestion of a door supervisor was a mitigating factor that, you know, there can be a happy harmony there between the residents and the business owner, and that everyone can rub along nicely. Like I said, they can live peacefully in their own homes. I think that's all his points summed up.
Okay. Questions from the committee. Obviously, I'd remind the committee that Mr Sutton's not here, and for all intents and purposes, you will be submitting your questions to Mr Sutton. Miss Martin may not be able to answer them. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Miss Martin, I assume Mr Sutton's concerns are solely based on nuisance. Is that correct? Right. We have heard from the officer that environmental health officers who deal with noise issues have not made any representations. Has Mr Sutton made any comment as to why that would be?
As far as he's concerned, environmental health have been made aware, and he has sent a number of emails with evidence to them. And they also were part of the site visit on whatever date it was in September.
Nathan, is there any dispute that environmental health were not aware of any particular complaints? I think it's the language.
Sorry, that was a double negative. So I know that complaints have been made to environmental health. They have not substantiated a nuisance. But initial complaints have been made. The normal process would be that, you know, you make a complaint, you are provided with some information and asked to provide diary sheets and things like that. And then on the basis of those diary sheets, maybe there is the noise recorder installed. And that hasn't happened on this occasion, either diary sheets or noise recorder.
So the point is here that environmental health are aware, but there are no significant concerns to make representations. Is that correct?
I mean, it's up to environmental health to decide whether or not to make a representation themselves.
Yeah.
But they would make a representation if they were satisfied that if they were at the stage of being satisfied that granting the application would undermine the objective. By them not doing, that would suggest that they're not at that stage.
Okay.
And just to clarify that could be for a number of different reasons, because it's not necessarily that there isn't a problem, but it may be that they're not at the stage where they are sure there is a problem.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily prove either way.
Right. I think that's all I need to know from that. Mr. Rogers, any questions for Mr. Sutton's representative?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, can I ask other persons, Ms. Martin, to sum up on behalf of Mr. Sutton if they wish?
I think I've covered everything really so far, but Mr Sutton's objection is the levels of noise that he is subjected to in his own home. For example, in the summer, he couldn't have his windows open. If he went to bed early of an evening, he couldn't have the windows open. I think we all know what it's like to be in bed on a summer's evening and you can't have the windows open. It's extremely warm. And obviously, the later at the night that goes on, the more annoying it becomes, the more nuisance it becomes. And unfortunately, the more people drink, the louder they tend to become. And I think that was his main objection for having the time limit in place for outside activity.
Right. Can I ask Mr. Rogers to sum up?
I acknowledged the EHO visit. Paul came out to visit me, took me through it. We weren't clear on which of the venues it was, but because of the proximity of the one complaint that he got, and he has only had one complaint, otherwise he'll be back out to visit me again. He's pretty sharp on those things. I acknowledge that. There's been no police incidents. They've not opposed this either or put in a report. I'm a good licensee. I've been a good licensee for 4 years. I hold my hands up when I get things wrong and I make adjustments to do it. I have to. I'm a local business. If I get things wrong, it'll cost my local business. 80% of our customers are all local. So it's very important that we do listen to that. Representation on behalf of those people, it's about this one gentleman who's objected to it. I understand what he's saying, but he's the one person that's objected to this. Nobody else has. People that live above us, people that live opposite us around the corner, they're not objecting to our licence. And with regards to the summertime, they're also all using it as well. I don't think 10 p.m. is unreasonable. It's not used throughout the winter at that lateness. It will be in the summer. That's why I said 10 o'clock, because of the light aspect. We do bring customers inside when they get into taxis, and we have been policing with regards to noise levels, including when they're leaving. We do our best out there once they leave. Once they get 20, 30 yards away, that obviously can be a bit difficult, but that's no different from the other licensed premises, of which I also add, they close later than us. Even this venue, we are the first to close in that area, so we're not even a last pit stop for people. So them walking to us to get late night drinks, we're not late night people here. We are just a local community business, servicing, providing great food, great drink, great atmosphere, and we just want to extend it outside because it's part of the business plan for us. And that's it. I'm open and honest. And anybody, comes and tells me that there's been an issue last night, I'm not saying we'll get it right. We won't. We will make mistakes, as any business will. But I do hold my hand up, and I do correct things, and I do adjust things. And it's the last thing I want to do is have locals upset with me. Mr. Sutton, he's upset with me, and I don't know why, but hopefully I can try and resolve that between us. I've got a logbook, we've got a phone number, you can walk in and tell us. We will make adjustments to it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We will now go to the decision-making process. Therefore, can I ask everybody who's not part of that process to leave? You're more than welcome to come back in at the end. However, I understand if some of you want to shoot off. Not you, Nathan, you're not allowed to go. Welcome back, everybody. In reaching this determination, the subcommittee took account of the Licensing Act 2003, the guidance issued under Section 182 of the Act, the Council's own statement of licensing policy, the written and oral evidence presented in connection with the hearing. Members carefully considered all the evidence provided by the parties at the hearing together with the written representations. Members resolved to grant the variation to the premises licence. Replace condition 7 of Annex 2 with the following condition B. The use of outdoor seating areas shall cease to be used for consumption of any drink, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, after 10 o'clock p.m. each day, and vary the existing plan to include an outside area to the front of the premises. A copy of the proposed new plan is appended at Appendix 6. Committee noted that there were no representations from the police or environmental health at this time, and members wanted all parties to know that there is a system in place to address noise nuisance. A robust system in place to address noise nuisance. And if there is evidence to environmental health that there is a breach, steps would be taken to address this. Should there be further incidences, then this should be raised with environmental health in the first instance. That's the decision of the committee. Can I thank